This is the Lean Builders Hoots on the Ground podcast with absolutely, positively no bullshito. Join us as we dig into exactly what lean construction is and how we can use these concepts and strategies in the field. This podcast will be different as we journey to job sites and mine the minds of lean builders, all in effort to pass forward building knowledge from those who have put their time in to learn a better way. Because that's just what lean builders do. What's up, y'all? Adam Hoots here, the Lean Builder Hoots on the Ground podcast with no bullshito. And today we got two guests coming at you from Central Illinois, Mr. Sam Sinclair and Mr. Nick Clemens. Guys, welcome to the show. Would love for you to just maybe take a couple minutes each. And how about you introduce one another? How's that sound?
Wow, a little curveball there first thing this morning.
Yeah.
So Sam Sinclair is a plumbing superintendent for E.L. Pruitt Company in Springfield, Illinois. E.L. Pruitt is a mechanical, plumbing, and still do fire protection?
Nope, we do civil.
Civil, okay.
Yes.
I worked with Sam 10 plus years ago whenever he was still out in the field working with his tools down at one of the health systems here in town. And we've reunited over the last year on our lean journey and some of the development that we're both doing with our companies and elevating our field leadership team. And so that's brought us back together here.
I love it. How about you, Sam? Can you introduce Nick for us?
Yeah, Nick Clemens, O'Shea Builders. May not have as much to say as nice things. He really put me on a platform there. Nick does a great job. Like you said, we've worked for probably, I was trying to think, 10 or 15 years ago, just as co-workers out in the field doing the stuff, and got away from each other. And Nick's come back and he's really stepped up, I think, at O'Shea Builders and really helping lead them in this lean adventure. He's actually helped me a lot, and I think he does a great job here at O'Shea.
Nice. I love that, Sam. Well done. How about, so Nick, can you maybe dive in to introduce yourself and what Sam didn't say about you? Maybe what Sam doesn't know about you even.
Yeah. I am a carpenter by trade, been in the construction field for about 24 years. Out of high school, got into construction, started working for a friend of mine. His dad was a superintendent for a local construction company. Did that for 6 or 7 years, worked on my own for a couple of years, and then joined the Carpenters Union about 15 years ago. Most of my time with the Carpenters Union has been with O'Shea Builders. I went through my carpenter's apprenticeship with O'Shea, and basically fresh out of my apprenticeship, started running projects, smaller projects. Spent a good portion of my career with O'Shea in a hospital between two different health systems here in town. And the current one that I am working at, I've been there for 10 years. They have, I think, 13 facilities throughout Illinois and Wisconsin. So mainly work here in Springfield, but starting to branch out a little bit in some of the other facilities throughout Illinois, and then starting to branch out of that healthcare system to working with some of our superintendents and project teams outside of just running work myself.
That's amazing. How about you, Mr. Sam? Can you let us into a little bit deeper dive of who you are?
Yeah, I started in the apprenticeship 30 years ago. This year is my 30-year anniversary. Started as an apprentice. At our apprenticeship, we travel through different contractors for every 6 months. We rotate, and then we land. And I got through my apprenticeship, and there was a job offer at E.L. Pruitt. Came there in 98, had been there ever since. Worked my way up from, my first job was a foreman at part of the healthcare we work at, one of them doing a new building, and just went right into healthcare. I've been there pretty much all 30 years. I've done a few jobs outside, but spent most of my career at one of the health systems, either running work there, and then when I got in the office, followed in my father's footsteps as the superintendent at E.L. Pruitt, which was a tough thing to do, I will say, but I enjoyed the challenge. And then I stayed in contact with the health system and kind of priced up some work, led them on some of their stuff, some of their new people. There's one guy there that's been there as long as I have, so we know the building more than most, and we help the new guys and the new contractors coming in there on the building. And after a superintendent for 10 years, went back out in the field for 2 and came back in, been back in for 3. It was probably the best thing I ever did for being a superintendent and a leader, is go back and work for 2 years.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that the best supervisors in construction have actually put their hands on the work and done that. What caused you to do that, Sam?
Our company actually we were in a low spot in work, and they were considering thinking that they didn't need superintendents. They wanted to try it for a while, and I volunteered to go back out in the field, and I managed the whole health system, like a 4-city block. There's clinics and day surgery facilities there, and I just project managed, superintendent, ran all the work there. And then honestly, in a couple of years, they called and asked if I would come back in and do the manpower again. And I enjoy it. When I got back in, that's when I decided. I went to an MCA conference in 2017 out in Denver, Colorado, and met Mark Breslin was there, and came back in. And I always wanted to, when I got back, I wanted to do more. I wanted to give evaluations on our foreman and have them evaluate me and see if I was doing my job correctly. And it got pushed under the rug after 6 months of having a big upside from going out there. And then when I came back in the office, I just decided I was going to push training and push leadership. And that's when I started the classroom stuff.
Nice. So is that a result of you seeing the lack of leadership in the field? Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I always tell them I started this superintendent duty maybe a little too early in my life. And then I learned how it went, lost touch base with everything, and learned that you need to have a feel and not forget where you've came from. Just help those guys out, because I've seen it firsthand again now.
Absolutely. How about you, Nick? When's the last time you put your tools on and went and did some work in the field? Not to call you out or anything. I'm just curious.
Yeah. It's been a little while as far as on the clock in the middle of a home renovation. So I'm wearing my tools at night and weekend.
Hey, that counts. That counts
Yeah,
more than
yeah.
most.
But over the past several years, a lot of my supervision has been just managing numerous smaller projects within the campus and the healthcare facility I'm working in, and projects stacked on top of each other. And it doesn't give you much time to throw your tools on and actually get your hands on the work. There are some opportunities off hours working in healthcare that nights and weekends, whenever you have to come in and perform a certain scope of work after hours, you get an opportunity to wear your tools and get out and get to work with the guys. But I think the more projects you take on and the more responsibility you take on, you got to be out in front of the guys, clearing and removing roadblocks. And a lot of times that means putting the tools down.
Yeah, I tell this story often. I had a job in San Francisco that I was building, and we were pouring 2 big mat foundations. And we had one guy's name was George, who was leading the concrete crew of one foundation. And these are big mat foundations, 6 foot deep, probably 24 foot long by 12 foot wide. And we had Eddie on one side. We called him Fast Eddie, and we had George on the other. And George was just the slowest. And he was always in the footing, working, tying rebar. Like, he was always in there trying to help the guys, where Eddie was never on site. And I could not figure it out. I was a young engineer at the time, and I was like, Eddie, what are you doing, man? He's, oh, Adam, you want to know what's funny? Is every time that crew stops, watch what happens. And it goes to speak exactly what you're saying, Nick. As soon as George's crew would stop working, there'd be 12 guys standing around doing absolutely nothing, while George was scurrying around trying to remove roadblocks left and right and up and down and order this and that. And whereas Eddie's crew, as soon as they got done with that one footing they were working on, they flowed right into the next footing and so, yeah, Eddie wasn't there all day helping the guys tie rebar and form the foundation and all that, but he was clearly removing roadblocks, and he had a plan for the next stage. And so I think there's this misconception of what we learn coming up through the trades, where you've got to be there and working with the people doing the work. And I do believe that to be true. But I guess, Nick or Sam, how do you balance that time of proving that the work, having the people doing the work respect you, but also clearing the roadblock? What does that balance feel like to each one of you?
Yeah. Briefly, so exactly what you're talking about, Adam, I had a hard time disconnecting with the work, because I felt like being in the trench, getting dirty, breaking a sweat with the guys was my way of earning respect with the crew. And if I can't do it, how can I ask them to do it? And I had to lead by example. But just what you said, whenever you're leading by example, when you're in the trenches with the crew, next thing you know, the crew's stopped and they're waiting on you to make a decision and keep them moving forward. So I still respect that. I don't ask anybody to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. But if you're actually performing the work, then you're not leading the crew in a way that they need to be led, and you're not flowing the work ahead of them and clearing the road so they can keep doing their job.
That's correct. When I went back out in the field, I always told the guys, and I would say I'm a bad ground guy. I'm going to tell you that right now. I want to be a guy on the ladder. I want to be the guy doing the work. So I'm just going to nitpick you. And then as I stayed in there for a couple of years, I learned that you have to trust everybody. And when I get back in the office, I try not to micromanage. I think the first time I was a superintendent, I thought I had to micromanage everybody and go make sure they had that done. Make sure this is done. Now I just give them the tools, give them the direction, and try to let them take it and run with it. And my phone's always on. They can call me anytime. But I don't think you can be a leader and not enable and empower everybody underneath you.
Mm-hmm. It's a hard thing to do, though. When you empower others, sometimes you lose the full-on control, don't you, Sam?
Completely. Yes. In my mind, it really hurts. But I've learned to let that go and let them make the decisions. And you'll be surprised, I think, the number of people that have as much experience or more still call and just ask that reassurance and that question.
What does that feel like, giving up control like that?
It's probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Yeah. Just even at home, we joke, my wife and my kids, that I have to know everything that's going on. I'm typically a control freak. I really am. I've come to realize that. So it makes it a little easier. But to give it up, I think you can see others progress and get better. And it makes you feel good that you're teaching the right way.
What advice would you give to somebody? Maybe there's a superintendent listening in who's like just that typical traditional command and control. What advice do you give them to help them let loose a little bit?
I think you just have to look at yourself. First of all, I can go back to almost a day where I realized that I needed to let go of some stuff and just be myself. I think that when you get in front and you start lead, you start putting pressure, you try to put like some false impressions on you and really want to please. And to do that, you have to look in the mirror and realize that you thing, and you have to be able to move on to the next step, and you have to let them do that. I think you just have to communicate and look at each other and have a deep conversation on how to lead.
Yeah, the old trust but verify method. Got to let it loose. Got to let them have enough rope to run with. I like what y'all are saying. And you two, just for clarity's sake, y'all are trade partner and general contractor, correct?
Correct.
You seem like you've got a pretty good flow, pretty good relationship. Has it always been that way?
I don't think so. I think that we've always had a good relationship. It's just been different. It's been a mutual respect in the past for each other, out putting work in place, adding value to the project, working together in that aspect. And I think now it's more shifting from the operations, the tools, putting work in place, to how can we develop our people, and just being on that different level of communication and leadership, of going from working with the tools to working with the people and tipping that scale in the other direction. We're both like-minded in that direction. And I appreciate what Sam said about, I think that's been some of my blocks to leadership in the past too, micromanaging or just having that level of trust for the guys putting work in place. And I thought about Keon and the 5 levels of delegation, and just really, if I look back on some of my blocks to leadership, it was because I could not figure out that level of delegation and that level of trust that I needed to have with the guys that were putting work in place. So giving them the tools to succeed and then letting them succeed and develop themselves on their own.
Yeah, you mentioned lean tools in the field and now lean tools from a management perspective. What are some of those lean tools that you're using or used in each position?
I was focused, I guess, if you think about out in the field putting work in place, you're focused on yourself and how you operate. And if you're more in a leadership role and trying to develop people and trying to elevate superintendents or elevate field leadership, you're more focused on what the other person wants, needs, how they learn, that whole meet them where they're at idea. And just because you grab a hold of information or develop or produce work a certain way, that doesn't mean that's how the next person produces work. So just trying to disconnect yourself and your personal characteristics from the situation and from the leadership, and just really start to ask those questions and try to understand the other person and what they need from you, rather than just disconnecting personally from the work and connecting with the person that's putting the work in place.
That's huge. I think we struggle to do that a lot in construction, albeit like super important, right? Probably one of the most important things that we do, establishing that relationship, building that trust. How are you intentional about doing that, Nick?
So I'm getting better. This is really something I'm working on, and just listening to you and Justin and how awesome Justin is asking questions. Justin Ula,
We are. Oh yeah.
yeah, just he'll sit back and listen to a conversation, and when everybody is done talking and you think all the information's out on the table, he'll start asking questions, and for 10 minutes longer start pulling out all this information because of his excellent listening skills and his ability to ask questions. This is an area I am focused on as far as my leadership development, as being a better listener, a better communicator, and learning how to ask questions.
I love that. And Jesse Hernandez has the emotional bungee jumpers group. I've been doing that for a year and a half now. And you want to talk about a way to make your questions better. And Justin's in that group as well. And so if you want the cheat code, the old hack, you come join us in an emotional bungee jumper or two. In fact, next week, I hope, and I probably won't get this out by then, but on April 27th, there is an emotional bungee jumpers webinar where you can log in and watch what we do for free and just watch me squirm when Miss Jen starts hitting me with 9 million questions. And it's a good time, but I love that. How about you, Sam? What are you working on? What tools are you sharpening right now?
I'm to elaborate on what Nick's saying, to listen. I think that's the hardest thing as a leader and as coming up to the trades. You want to show that, and you want to enforce that you know how to do things. And I've been, I guess, go back a little bit. I've been in this, like I said, for 30 years. So Nick, in my world, we worked together, but I was always under the old O'Shea guys, the guys that kind of had their thumb on their subcontractors more and pushed. And now the new, as we call it at our company, the new O'Shea, because it's different. And I'm not saying it's worse, it's by far better. I think they're moving in the right direction, and I think we all are. But I'm working on just trying how to give that respect to everybody at every level. I think that I've always trusted people, but I don't know that I really respected what they did. When you see a GC and we work hand in hand a lot with O'Shea, which is great for us. I've always said if I was a business owner in Central Illinois, I want to do every job with O'Shea Builders, because you get in, you get out, you get done, and you move on to the next one. That's just how they do things. And it's awesome. But I think it was hard for me to respect what Nick or other superintendents they had did, because I didn't see what all they had going on. So now I've learned to listen and to just look at different angles and respect what goes on and what they're going through every day, because it's more than what I guess just a single trade has to work with.
And I love how you two build on each other, right? Because Nick said, I'm working on asking better questions. And that's great and dandy. But if you don't do what Sam's working on, then those questions don't mean squat, right? Like you can ask the question, but then if you don't listen to the answer, it really doesn't matter if you asked a good question or not. I absolutely love how you guys are building on each other. And you mentioned, and I'm going to pry in here pretty good, and feel free, Nick, to cut us off if you want. But you mentioned the old O'Shea guys, I guess is what you said. And you mentioned the new O'Shea. What is the difference? And this is specifically for Sam, not for you, Nick. What is the difference from your perspective, Sam?
I think the old O'Shea, as I like to put it, I'm probably the one guy that's been here the longest that's worked with O'Shea, even as a trade partners, unfortunately.
Yep.
I think it was push. The old adage is bring the drywall on the job site and everybody else starts moving faster. And
Close the wall up. Yep.
We all know that. We all know that. But now in the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, even prior to that, I think 10 years ago, they started making the change to get more input from their trade partners, subcontractors, I like to say, they trade partners, but and we are partners. I think they start every meeting out on the job site, which I understand and I enjoy, is safety, and then everybody having a chance to make money and communicate. So that's key. I don't know that people actually comprehend what they're saying in that part, but they are trying to work with everybody as a group. And the new O'Shea, I've had a lot of, Nick and I probably have confrontations, he'll say, and I say, I don't agree 10 years ago, but it's a mutual respect because I know, and they tend to gear towards that respect of their trade partners a lot more and a lot more input. And I said it a few years ago to one of his coworkers, Zach Hogan, and I said, you guys are doing this lean stuff and I'm all in. I'll be all in. But you're training everybody. It's such a hard thing to do because there's only really a handful of GCs in this area that do the type of work we do. So they're not in the lean path or adventure. They're just doing the old school job meetings that last an hour and a half, 2 hours, and nothing gets done. And here you can come in, do your thing, everybody communicates, walk off. And I've tried to explain to O'Shea, and they're okay with it, the investment they're making in us. And I appreciate that. So that's the new O'Shea.
I like that. What would you add or take away, Nick?
No, I think Sam hit the nail on the head. Mainly it's on the supervision. I feel like the field supervision as far as the old O'Shea versus the new O'Shea. I feel like O'Shea has always had a high level of respect, and our foundation and our cornerstones for the organization has remained throughout history. We've been in business since 1900. The current president and CEO is fourth generation O'Shea within the company. I'm not going to throw out that word that you can't stand, but that's a lot of who we are.
Awesome, baby. Culture, right? Culture.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel like that's what makes O'Shea who we are, and that's what made O'Shea who we were. But I feel like the field leadership has developed in getting out of that command and control, and the field superintendent having to have the entire plan in their head. You don't know what direction you're going tomorrow until the superintendent tells you what direction you're going tomorrow. You get a call from the client that says, can you shave 2-3 weeks off the schedule? You say yes without talking to the team and figuring out if it's even realistic. So if I think about old O'Shea versus new O'Shea, I think it's in the field leadership and the collaboration, the mutual respect we have, that I want Sam to make money on the project. If Sam makes money and if Sam's successful, that means I'm successful on the project as well, rather than just thinking about how I can push Sam and get the job done faster, quicker, easier, trying to share that success. And it makes the team build a higher level of trust that you can carry on to the next project.
Yeah. I just lost my thought. Sorry. So sometimes I do that when I'm listening so intently. Tell me, what changes, Nick, have you made in the last 4 or 5 years that has resulted in this new O'Shea being crafted?
Yeah. Personally, 4 or 5 years, and just even more recent than that, is just, we touched on it earlier, and how can I disconnect myself from the work that's being put in place and from the leadership, and try to connect deeper and more personal with the guys that are the value add skilled trades workers that are putting work in place. How can I make that deeper connection, and what makes them successful instead of what makes me successful? Am I really trying to push my personal development and growth within the organization, or am I thinking about the big picture and what makes the team successful? So I think that a major milestone in my leadership is just disconnecting personally from the work and trying to connect big picture and get personal with the team.
That's not an easy transition at all. So how do you initiate and make that happen?
So we're almost 4 years into our lean journey. The leadership team is a couple years before that, with trying to understand and develop what that looks like, and really trying to take an assessment of the organization. And so we started using Last Planner system 3.5, 4 years ago, but we had to implement lean tools to meet supply and demand, because there was so much work coming our way over the next couple of years, and the regional market couldn't support the amount of work that we were going to perform if we did not add lean tools or the Last Planner system, or try to redevelop the way that we were delivering projects, trying to do more with less that's more efficient. So if you think about over the last 3 years implementing lean tools, and it's really brought us a lot of success, we're 50 plus 55, 56% more likely to deliver on schedule than we were 3 years ago with the
Wow.
last planner system. And Harry can give you the numbers. Harry's a numbers man.
Oh, yeah.
But we thought 3 years ago we were good. We thought that we were in our regional market, we were as far as delivering on budget and on time. But now we're 55, 56% more likely to deliver that job on schedule with the last planner system and the lean tools we've developed. So now what we're really starting to do is take a deeper dive into lean and figure out what are the gaps that we have lost or the gaps that we've skimmed over the last 3 years and some of the leadership stuff, and kind of taking our lean journey from understanding competency to mastery before we move on and dive into the next thing. So a lot of it's connecting the leadership to the tools. The tools and it's connecting the leap and knowing how to lead a lean project that's the mastery, the next step for us.
Love seeing your maturity level gain there. That's awesome. I'm excited because I think in 3 years, developing a lean organization is quite the feat. And y'all are taking that information and putting it back in. Sam, tell me this, from watching the success of O'Shea, or this conversion, I almost want to say, into this lean construction world, what are the things that you have taken, that you've witnessed O'Shea be successful in and used it within your own organization?
I think it starts with respect. I've seen a draft, not that they didn't respect you before, it's just a different level, I think, and they get you involved as early as possible. Example is we did an MOB building, I think it was 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And that was when they were just starting the lean, and we were trying a pool plan, and we did a pool plan. And 2 weeks later, I go to a weekly work meeting, and it was, we're going into tact. Okay. And they were trying to fill their way through, and I got it. I understood. And it was neat to see the change. And then I'll say in the last 6 months, we started another MOB building, and that team brought several of the subs that were the same on board early and let us help make the TAC plan and make the TAC smaller or larger, how we thought it would work, and move it to you put the electrical room first, or you put that as a little side step. So that way you can get everything out to the next area to turn over first and keep moving. And I think just just the way they've matured, and it's matured the trade partners as well, to respect each other and to move forward. I guess on another level, what have I taken from them? I love the weekly work plan. I really do. I think you got your daily huddles and you got your plan, and everybody has that drawn out in the foreman's meeting, the weekly work plan. We're getting ready to start a job. It's 3 firehouses, and we're doing it. O'Shea's the CM. And I've just came up with the idea. I'm going to try it on this job to take the plumbing to put 6 plumbing sheets on our trailer wall. So our foreman's going to run all 3 buildings, we hope. That's how we're planning it to sequence out. And he can take his weekly work plan and draw it on those drawings hanging on the trailer wall. So the whole crew can see where we need to be at the end of this week. Okay, here's what we promised. You got to figure out a way to get there. And we're just going to do that. And I've learned that from just watching what they do on the walls and their jobs, how they have all the information up there. And I think it's key to, why keep it inside yourself as the foreman? Get it out to the whole crew and let them see what you've promised.
Yeah, I say all the time, my mind is made for creating ideas, not storing them. So get that junk out of your head, put it on the wall. I've got a really bad knack for uncommunicated expectations. I just feel like the whole world should know what I'm thinking. I think that's back to my command and control days. But I think it's genius when you can take it and get it out of your head, put it on the wall. One, you don't have to think about it anymore. Two, you've got 100 other individuals that are coming through, looking at that wall, interpreting that message, correcting anything that might be wrong with it. I think visualization is a main pillar of all things lean, and it really helps us to get on the same page and coordinate. So I love that, Sam. Thank you for that. You dropped the word, Nick, culture, and it just makes my skin crawl. I'm curious how y'all would describe the culture on an O'Shea project site.
You want to start?
No, go ahead. I'll elaborate on what you got.
Yeah. So I think the culture is growing on an O'Shea site. I think about when I come into the office, our headquarters, and you feel like part of the family. If you bump into Mike O'Shea in the hallway, he asks you how your kids are doing, how's baseball going. He never starts with, how's the job going? Are we successful? It's always personal. It's always, how's your family? So to me, that's a goal. That's a vision. Like, how can we make our jobs feel like the office feels? How can we make, when our trade partners come onto our projects, how can we make them feel like we're part of the family or they're part of our family? So that's a vision. I think we're working in that direction. I think lean, respect for people, collaboration is a huge step in the right direction, and just breaking down those defensive barriers between trade partners, GC, vendors, suppliers, and just really breaking down those walls and opening up the door to collaborate and build logistics and success for the job for everybody involved. I think we are well on our way there, moving in the right direction. We've got some work to do though.
And what a great way to start it. I love starting with the kind of family, personal action. That's beautiful. What a beautiful thing. What would you add to it, Sam?
I'll agree with I'm going to go back to the Mike O'Shea thing. Like I said, I'm the old guy here that's been here the longest, probably longer than a lot of the guys in O'Shea's headquarters. But I still have the feeling I can walk in here, and I've done it in the past, and walk into Mike O'Shea's office. We just sit down, have a conversation for a few minutes, and we go about our way. Super nice guys, super nice people in here. On the job sites, I think that in our market, we're fairly lucky that we get to work with some of the same people. So it becomes a friendship almost. It really does. I try to hit every job site because that's my duties, one of my duties. And when I walk onto a job site, I'll throw out the one in Jacksonville that's going on right now at Illinois College. Their superintendent we walk up, joke around, have a good time, then we'll walk the job site and look at it. But it's a friendship. And I think that when you can get past oh, you're my GC and I got to do what you tell me mindset, and them getting past the mindset of telling you what to do, it makes things a lot easier. And I think we're on our way. I really do. I think that in the past, it's been, hey, you got to get these 3 walls roughed in. We got to get this bathroom. We got to have the drywall hanging in 2 weeks and you're way behind. To, hey, how can I help you get that done? And what do we got to do to make you get out in front? And let's walk and get a plan. And that's just the way it's been working.
Man, that's awesome. You mentioned Illinois College. I went to middle school, like right down the street. That's in Jacksonville, Illinois.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to walk by Illinois College on my way home in middle school. So it's exciting to hear you guys working on a project there. My goodness.
So you went to Turner Junior High, huh?
I did. Yes, sir. Wiffle ball champion back in like 1996, something like that. Oh, yeah. I sure did. That's funny. Let's see. What else? Like, what else so you said you've been around for a while, but did you watch Bud build it or no?
I worked with Bud on some
Nice.
projects. I did under Bud. He was the PM. Yeah.
Tell me what that was like.
There was never a misstep. I will say that. Bud knew, rest his soul. I thought Bud was old when I got in, but he was still here 25 years later doing the same things and doing it well still. It was awesome. Honestly, he set a precedent, and he was safety. At 80, Bud was still telling you be safe and do the right things. And he cared about people in general. He really did. He wanted his projects to go a certain way, and they did. I always thought it was funny that the newer superintendents got on Bud's jobs because he set the tempo and he set how he wanted you to treat people. He was the leader of this company for a lot of years, which he was, but he did it the right way.
What kind of lean things would you say Bud had? And it's David, I guess I can see on the wall behind you. What kind of lean things did he do on his projects?
I don't know. I don't even know if they were really in the lean when he was there, but I think he was probably lean before lean was cool. You know what I mean? He would make sure that, I'll never forget a job we were doing as a grocery store, and he poured the parking lot, and nobody was allowed to park in the parking lot because we're going to turn over a brand new parking lot. So he had us another area to park, which was actually closer to the building. And that makes a difference just getting in. Everything was kept clean. Everything was professional. And he had it scheduled out.
I like that a lot. Thank you for taking that curveball for me. Here's another thing that bugs me, and you said it, Sam. You said Mike O'Shea is a nice guy. And that's a good thing. It can be a good thing on a job site, although you can really get taken advantage of quickly for being a nice guy. Respect for people is much more than just being nice. How do each of you define those respect for people terms? Or how do you define that term?
I'll go first on this one.
Have at it.
And I'm not going to be very good at it, but you can elaborate on it. I think to be nice, it is, but you have to be respected. And I think if you walk the walk, talk the talk, and show that you respect everybody and you are a nice guy, that you won't get taken advantage of. You have to be a little bit forceful, but in a respectful manner. If you can prove, in people's eyes, they're looking at you all the time. There's always an audience. I always tell everybody you're in a fishbowl. Figure that, because there's always somebody watching you, whether you believe it or not. And if you act the same way when you're by yourself, or when you got one person around you as you do when you've got 50 and you're leading that group, or you're walking down the street and talk to somebody, I think that you're going to be known as a nice guy, but they're going to respect you because you are who you are. When I walk into a room filled with people, there's sometimes I feel intimidated, but then I look up and I'm like, okay, I can do my thing. I can act like this. And that's me. That's just how I am. And I think when Mike O'Shea walks into a room, he is a nice guy, but everybody respects what he does and what he's done for them and with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that respect is accountability, and it's full circle. If you hold yourself to a high level of accountability, and the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. If you're organized, you're clean, you're safe, thinking about Bud O'Shea and the high level of quality control and kind of the finish as you go, and it doesn't end up on the punch list. You don't parking that parking lot because I don't want oil spots and I don't want tire marks, and thinking about that high level of accountability and what you hold your standards to. If you're holding yourself to that level of accountability, you should be able to hold everyone else to that level of accountability. And if you're not respecting them, so as far as safety, if you turn a blind eye to someone not being safe, you're not holding them accountable. And really, if they get hurt, that's on you. You're not respecting that person. You're not respecting their family. So again, an area as I'm starting to branch out a little bit and elevate the role of superintendent and working with some of our field teams, an area of focus and figuring out that fine line of respect for people, accountability, and just helping people grow and understand that if I call you out on this, I'm calling you out because I respect you and I respect your growth and leadership and your safety. If I don't call you out on it, and I should have, you need to call me out on it. It's a full circle.
Yeah, as Jason Schroeder likes to say, I love you, Nick. That's why I can't let this go, right?
Yeah.
Because I've got the love for you. That's fantastic. So Nick, I got to compliment you because it doesn't matter what we're doing. If we're having a South Carolina lean coffee, Nick Clemens is popping in. If we're having a superintendent only lean coffee, if we're having whatever webinar it is, like Nick Clemens is there. So I just want to compliment you on your learning journey. I feel like you are always attracted to the light, like you are constantly trying to get better always. And man, I respect the heck out of that. I think the world of you. I met you. I know I met Sam through the superintendent only lean coffee. How would you guys explain or describe what those events are like?
So for me, Adam, over the past 6 months to a year, I've really been trying to feel my way through where my lean journey is taking me and developing into a new role. And just there's no roadmap laid out in front of me that I understand what direction I'm going and what path I need to take, because it's a new position and it's kind of the next steps in our lean journey and how do we elevate the role of superintendent. And so for me, all the learning and development is trying to help me feel my way through my lean journey and figure out what direction I'm going to go. And it also does a second thing whenever it gets me outside of my typical box and my comfort zone, and it puts me out there in front of other superintendents across the country, and I'm able to learn and discuss, and I over prepare for certain things. So if I'm over preparing, I'm developing before the meeting and I'm developing after the meeting. It keeps me fresh and it keeps me sharp and gives me a vision of what direction I need to go by talking to others and learning and developing along that path. keeps me from getting stagnant and losing focus on what we need to be doing as an organization. And really, in general, the lean community is so open to anyone that wants to come into it. All the ideas and all the structure that everybody's doing that makes them successful. It's full transparency in that community.
Yeah, we're crossing company lines. I guess, Sam, how would you describe what takes place in those superintendent-only lean coffees?
I actually got on there because Nick asked me to come on and see it. And for my benefit, I'm amazed at the communication, the organization. When you have, I think yesterday's was there 40 people on there, I think, or 25. I don't remember what it was. There was a number kept flowing up on the screen. And nobody really interrupts anybody. They just wait their turn, and everybody's respectful of everybody. And for me, I got on more to see, because O'Shea's driving the lean bus in Central Illinois. That's just how it goes. But I want to see how it's going everywhere else and see how I can take the little bits from Texas or the little bits from Oklahoma or South Carolina and see what you guys are doing and see if I can help our company. I always feel like for us, I need to learn how everybody does it so I can communicate to our guys how to communicate with the O'Shea superintendents. When you're in a pool plant and I don't get to come there, or the PM doesn't get to come and you're on your own, which we don't like, but you can have that communication. You can understand what they're wanting to hear and how they want to get things done. I'm just trying to figure out the best way for this trade partner to enjoy the lean processes and make them work the best for all of us. Because I think if O'Shea's successful and E.L. Pruitt's successful and another competitor we have is successful, we're all going to grow. We're all going to get better at this stuff. And it takes time. And I think O'Shea's 4 years has gone by fast and they're doing a really good job. But I actually projected a 10-year growth on this for us to really be completely enthralled in lean and know how to do everything the right way. I don't know if you'll ever know it, but how to make it work best for you. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Take me down that journey. Where is E.L. Pruitt in your lean maturity? I heard Nick mention his maturity. How would you describe E.L. Pruitt's maturity?
I'm probably the only true guy that's reading into the lean and trying to take it to our, and that's what I'm doing there. I would say we're in the infancy stage, trying to figure everything out. I think me getting involved in some of this stuff opens some others' eyes, and that helps. I think we are a company that kind of grows off of each other. If one guy learns something, we talk about it in-house and what are you doing now? I get laughed at, or they get, what are you reading? What book are you on now? What video are you watching? I come in here, you're always on this podcast, or I'm just trying to learn what we're going to do next. So we're very young into it, but I think that we've adapted to what O'Shea's putting out there, and we're taking the next steps on the prefab. We're really big in the prefab. Our BIM department, I think, is top notch. We've got our COO runs it, and then we have a plumbing guy, a sheet metal, and a pipe foreman, all out of the trades on the computer doing our BIM, which they've all got a minimum of probably 10 years experience. So that helps. And we're all in contact with them all the time. We go back, hey, how's this job going? When are we going to be able to start prefabbing here? What do you got for us? And we're open. We're a very open community in our office. You're self-motivated, but we all work together really well. So I don't think that we're technically the lean company. It's not what everybody reads into, but we've adapted very well to what O'Shea's putting out there, and we're starting to get there.
That's fantastic. I love that you have builders in the BIM role. I used to call those people bimbos when they didn't have them, because it's one thing to know the geometry, but it's a whole nother thing to know that I've got to access that VAV box or
Right.
that valve up there. I have actually got to get to it. And so not having to reach around pipe and duct and just feel for it, but to actually see it and have the clearance zones incorporated, that's everything right there. So I got to congratulate you two both as well for being the first trade partner GC combo on the show. So way to go. We haven't even fist fought yet. So I hope you're ready for the next part of this show. What message do you two want to give to the world? What's the one or two things that you want to put out to the world and just let them hear straight from your mouths?
Guess one thing, love what you do. Figure out how to love what you do and figure out how to share that passion and that love with someone else and help them develop their journey. Maybe they don't love it for the same reasons, but connect with someone, a young person trying to get into the construction industry, an apprentice, connect with them in a way that you can respect how they learn and how they develop and what they're passionate about, and then give them the tools to be successful, give them the leadership to be successful. And again, just disconnect yourself from the process and try to connect yourself to the person doing the process.
And you went deep on me there. I wasn't expecting this love conversation, but all righty there. What do you got, Sam, for the world?
I think that the construction industry is always evolving. Nick saying the word love. 15 years ago, that would have never came out on a construction job site. You know what I mean? It would have been taboo. No way. But I think that is true. I think you have to love what you do. Are our jobs easy every day? No, they're not. And Nick, we all sit here and say, yeah, we love what we do. There's days you don't like what you do. But as a true leader, I think when you get up in the morning and you put those pants on and you go out the door, you are automatically putting that, you got to do what you love to do. And for me, when I walk out the door, get in the truck and head to work, it's just, okay, I got my deal. I know what I'm going to do. And even if it's the worst day in the world, I still try to come with a smile on my face and let everybody know that, hey, this is it. Because like I said, you're always under somebody's eyes, always somebody looking at you. And I think that until you know what you're doing and you find yourself in this role, it's hard. But I think that everybody will find their role. Get your niche, love what you do, and go to work every day and be the best person you can have. I have a saying I always tell my basketball team that I coach, and they look at me like I'm funny. I'm like, hey, get better every day. Get better every day. And that's where I'm at. I think that I can improve every day, and that's what I'm trying to do.
That's lean, baby. When you can just get better every day, they talk about that 1% better, right? Those marginal gains and that compound interest over time. That's what lean's all about. Maybe you've heard it, maybe you haven't. Japanese company hired Ubasun. Have you guys heard the story on Ubasun? So they hired this like famous lean consultant to come in and say, Ubasun, are we lean? And Ubasun walk in the plant during the day. They come to lunch. They're like, Ubasun, we paid you a lot of money. You have to tell us, are we lean? And Ubasun rubbed his beard and he said, I cannot tell. They came down to the end of the day and they're still walking the plant and they're seeing all these like Kanban boards and plus Delta, like all this evidence of a lean organization. And they said, listen, Ubasun, we paid you a lot of money. You have to tell us, are we lean? Are we lean? Are we lean? And Ubasun looked around real fast and he grabbed his beard and he says, I cannot tell. I was not here yesterday. And so the whole, like, to your saying, did you get better today than you were yesterday? And will you be better tomorrow than you are today? And that's the sign of a real lean organization. It's not visualization. It's not respecting people, like all these things. Yeah, those are pieces and parts of it. But are you getting better day to day? And are you focused on improving as an organization? And that's the true definition of lean. So I absolutely am enthralled with what you just said. Sam, thank you for that. Let's see. I got notes everywhere. You guys are freaking awesome. We got about 5 minutes or so left. And Nick, you dropped the word culture. Sam, you talked about love and it being a taboo word. In fact, we wrote a blog with Jennifer, Jesse, and myself, and we started it with love, care, and compassion. Those are three words you rarely hear on a construction site. And even when I say those words right now, I get this, like this uneasy feeling, right? My wife's going to come around the corner and we're going to have one of those talks. But what are some of the words or phrases that when y'all hear them, it rubs you the wrong way?
I think the first phrase that drives me crazy is, ooh, I can't do that, or we can't do that. That'll never work. Yeah, it will work. It'll work. We'll make it work out. That's why you're a professional. Figure it out. But to hear that word, we can't do that, or I even laugh. I'll go into a meeting and they'll give you a goal, which goals are huge in my world. But anyway, personally in my world, you got to have this done in X days. Oh, there's no way we can do that. There is no way we can do that. Stop. step back and let's think about it. Now, I was that guy probably 10 years ago that would have told Nick, there's no way, you're crazy, we can do that in 2 weeks. But that's probably my least favorite phrase is we can't do that, or there's no way.
How about you, Nick?
Yeah, that one's big to me too. If you ask my kids what was one word we don't say in our house, it's I can't. They'll tell you that. The guys that come onto the job and dump out that bag of I can'ts, that drives me nuts too. You got to figure it out. You got to talk through it. You got to figure out how to. Maybe the answer is no, I can't do that, and that's okay. But if you haven't even talked through the process and why can't you do that, you got to talk through it. But one word that kind of jumps out at me in a conversation, and I probably say it sometimes, but the word but. If you give someone a compliment or say something nice or, about the project or how the project's going and then follow it up with a but, and then here's the improvement, you might as well not even said the first thing. So for me, and I don't remember where I heard that, if it was like a John Maxwell quote or one of the books I was reading, but they're like, you never say but. Figure out a different way to say whatever you're trying to say, or disconnect the two parts of that conversation into two separate conversations. Don't start out with a compliment sandwich, like I think Jason Schroeder says, and throw the word but right in the middle of it.
Yeah, in fact, so Jesse and I, we do an exercise where we plan a party, and we're running out of time, but you go around the first time and I tell you what I'm bringing to the party, and then you say, Nick, no, and then what you're bringing to the party. And then Sam, you would say no to Nick, but what you're bringing to the party. And then the next time we go around, we would say yes, but. And then the final time we would say yes. And you want to talk about a powerful demonstration that you can do in less than 5 minutes. When you do that and you understand how it feels to be told no, and then how it feels to be told yes, but, and then how it feels to be told yes, and there is a enormous difference in the feeling of inclusion and collaborative and just like this, I matter to this equation when you're using the terms yes. And so when so that's a good replacement for the word but. I totally agree with what you're saying, using the word. And if we're trying to create an inclusive atmosphere on our job sites and our trade partners, the actual workers in the field bring something up, it's yes, and how can we try that? Or yes, and have you thought about this? Not no buts, because that just turns us off right away. So I absolutely love what you're talking about, Nick. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I'll probably edit this part out, but is there anything that you two want to get out to the world before I hit Sam with the last mic drop question?
I like the idea when you're thinking about lean, test and tune, try it out. Every lean tool in your toolbox does not need to be used on every project. Grab out the tools that work and make sense for the project. Keon and Joe talk about that value proposition. If it doesn't add value to the project or value to the people that are performing the work, don't use it. Plan, do, check, act. Test and tune, try out the tools, check to see if it works. Make the improvements. If it doesn't add value, drop it, get rid of the waste. If it adds value, figure out how you can make it better and pull it forward.
Amen. I love that, Nick. Thank you. All right, Sam, you ready to take us out?
I'll try.
Try is another one of those. That's not a word. You will, baby. You will. So I'm really curious from your perspective, Sam, and your trade partner that's worked successfully on lean projects. What is your message to the remainder of the general contractors not named O'Shea or those who are not performing lean construction? Why should they attempt to adopt lean construction?
The big thing is, I think it spurs so much communication. It lets you plan. It takes away, I know this is a little thing that always has on there, it takes away waste. It really does. I think that it's been a hard thing for us to learn as a trade partner. My guys, I've tried to explain that our plan was always to come in and go as fast as we could to rough in the underground on a plumbing job. And then I had 2 more guys I could put somewhere else, or 3 more guys. Now we've learned it's taken me a while to learn how to get your crews there and work a steady pace. Okay. It's not the put out the fire and run to the next one. Let's work on a pace. Let's have a plan. And there's always a plan there. I'm not saying they're always perfect. I won't say that. But I think that I think if you would buy into a little more forethought and planning ahead, it makes this world a whole lot easier. I think that we are in a rat race world. We always want to be, the schedule's 2 months. Let's get done in a month and a half. That's what everybody thinks. We know it's true, but it takes planning to get there. And I think everybody can get there, but I think everybody should read into it, look into it. Not every part of it's going to be for everybody. Not everybody's a big enough contractor or maybe they do smaller work. There's still ways to get it in there. I think that communication and just the planning of going forward and the respect for all your coworkers and your trade partners is huge. It makes me want to be on an O'Shea job, honestly, more.
That's awesome. Thank you, Mr. Sam. And thank you, Nick, for inviting Sam to be a part of our world, to just constantly plug it in. I appreciate watching you perform. Love having you in all the events. You make me better, Nick Clemens, and you do that for a lot of people. So thank you. You guys crushed it. I am excited for this episode. Love having you on the podcast, and we'll have to do it again soon, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.